because that is where learning happens, what I feel. And now today you're on this forum to share your experience. How are you feeling, Pavitra?
It's a very good feeling. So I do mention this in many other forums also. I think it's our responsibility to be part of these forums so that we are able to nurture the talent who comes into the role, be it in HR or in any industry. We guide them in the right way and provide them with right insights. So there were not many opportunities that we had back then, but now I think there are a lot of opportunities and institutes like yours encourage and guide the young minds into the right career path, and we should be part of it. I think I'm very proud of this and humbled to be part of it.
Amazing, Pavitra. Thank you so much. Certainly, now the time, and especially we have very, very young professionals who are looking forward to make their careers in HR, right? And these sessions and young people like you, when you come and share your experiences, certainly it makes a lot of difference. Right? So, without wasting any more time, I would like to ask you the very first question, that what inspired you to pursue a career as HRBP? And what is most fulfilling about this particular role? What is it that you enjoy the most in this role?
Okay. So before I start answering this question, I'll just give a quick disclaimer. I think as HR professional, it's important for me that I maintain the organization standards as well. So the response here, whatever responses that I'm giving, the discussion, the talking points and all, it is all based on my personal opinion and the collective experience that I've had in various companies. So it doesn't reflect any particular organization's views here, right? I'm sure I'll make sure that I'm giving you the information that you are looking for and you will find it insightful. So, okay. Yes, to answer your question, ma'am. So I started my career as HR generalist in Titan 12 years back, right? So I got placed in campus, and then in Titan, I was handling HR generalist profile for 2 states. So that role basically gave me a flavor of different aspects of HR, and from there, I was able to gain the confidence and I was able to picturize the connection between the impact the HRs can create or HR function can create on the business, right? And staying close to the mission, I was able to visualize the larger picture, and factors like challenges and versatility are something that really inspired me to get into HRBP role, right? So even in the current organization, I started as a HR operations person, and then slowly, when I got an opportunity into HRBP, I quickly grabbed it. But I started the groundwork to get into this role much before that. So I was just waiting for an opportunity to get into it.
That's wonderful to know, Pavitra. So I would like to know one thing, that, many times people use, I mean, of course, there is a huge difference between, if you look at it, HR generalist and HRBP role, right? So if may I ask you this question, that what is the difference between HR generalist and HRBP role?
Okay. So if I have to put it in a very simple terms, HR generalist is someone who handles the entire life cycle of the employee, end to end, hire to retire cycle completely. Whereas HR business partners handle a part of it, where it deals with the strategic part of it, working with the business based on the work or foundation that is already laid by the HR generalist.
So when you think about and talk about strategic part in HRBP role, could you please elaborate a little more on that?
Okay. So when I say strategic part, so this HRBP role requires us to work very closely with the business leaders, and we should be as comfortable as our business leaders talking about the numbers, to them. It should be more. It would be more of a level-headed conversation on the boardroom for a HR BP, right? So and basically guiding the business to make decisions, people related decisions especially, and also supporting them and providing them the insights on how they can achieve the objective of the organization.
So, thank you for that. And now I can see numbers are also coming into the picture when we talk about HRBP role, right? So I would like to ask you, could you please give me maybe one example that how the actual partnering is done when it comes to HRBP role? Any example if you can give us that will help us to understand more.
Sure. Say if we are looking to scale up the business, say in India, the business wants to scale up higher. The first thing is we might need to look at what are the projects that we are foreseeing, which is done by sales and BD, but we need to understand from the business teams on what are the projects and which are the platforms or which are the areas that we are looking to scale up in. Then that gets converted into your requirements of talent hiring or talent mapping, right? Even before you start bidding for a project, you start doing the talent mapping in the market to see availability of the talent. Or if you want to get a team to this country and start scaling up, then we have to sell saying that this is the talent availability in India market, right? So we will be able to do the project successfully and at this cost, right? So that is one example on the talent part of it, the talent development or talent identification or talent mapping part of it. Similarly, through the entire life cycle, so there is a role that HRBP plays working with the business. Say, for example, if there is a high attrition, we work with the business leaders and managers and employees to identify and understand the pulse of the team on why there is a high attrition, and we work around on the factors with the respective stakeholders to make sure that we bring down the attrition. It can be in terms of development, or it can be in terms of a poor culture, or it can be in terms of the organization is not inclusive enough, or the policies are not acceptable enough, or not up to the mark. All of it requires HR inputs and insights for the business to act on. It would be a very uh, tough job to convince business, because if you are going to increase the budget for anything, or if you're asking them to start something new, so then it apparently it converts to numbers. So that's the reason initially I mentioned that HR should be comfortable with the numbers, right? As equal as how the business is comfortable with. These are some examples.
Yeah. That is where the question is also coming in the chat box. So do you think that to become a HRBP or to perform the role as HRBP, is analytics required, HR analytics? Do you think that will be helpful?
HR analytics is definitely an upcoming field that we see, because there's a lot of data-driven decisions are made in organizations now. So if you have to convince your stakeholder, then data is important. If I have to say that hire talent in 3 to 5 years because the attrition is less there, then I have to tell my business on what is the data I see, the previous trend last year or last 5 years or last 10 years, to tell them that, see, this is the area we have seen people performing well, retention is better and attrition is less. So let's focus on this experience area for us to hire more if we have to scale higher, right? So all such decisions are data driven. It is important for us to be comfortable with the data. Definitely data analytics course is an added advantage to have, but it I wouldn't say that it is a must have, but it is a good to have knowledge.
Certainly, because when you have knowledge, as you said rightly, it will help to fast forward your learning. That is what we meant to say, right? And that is where I realized the one article very long back, which I published in one of the business magazines, that gloomy reality of HR. Most of the time on campuses, if you look at it, why do people take HR? Most of the time they give answer because there is a work-life balance. It is an office job. There is, then I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good with sales. So where should I go? So I should go in HR because it's a nice office kind of a job. And there is another myth around is it's for women. Would you like to throw some light on this kind of myths?
Gone are the days where we say that numbers are required only for finance. Even on our personal decisions, right? So if we have to order pizza today, we just go and check out what are the options that we have in pizzas, which are the ones that has discounts. Is it that we go for a meal that has discount, or if we go for an individual order that works well for us? So numbers, knowingly or unknowingly, has become part of our life. I don't think we were this calculative previously, 10 years back or 2 decades back. No, definitely not. I don't think my parents were like this. But uh, so for your personal decisions, if there is a big billion sale, the sale goes high. Why? All of us buy more because we've been watching the numbers there. We see the discounts there. And so we look at more value, right? So like that, every business looks for more value and numbers are very important. Coming to the desk job and all that, we have to be on the toes. We have to be where our people are to understand them better, right? So I was in the first half I was working from office and second half I'm working from home. So second half I line up all my meetings. In the first half I keep it free as much as possible so that I'm open to connect with anyone on the go. Right. So I don't have to look at my calendar and see that sorry, I do not have time to talk to you. If I meet someone, I like to sit, talk with them, be it on a coffee table or in a meeting room. I would like to connect with them to understand the pulse of it. It's not a desktop. If your employees are there in a different city, then you have to travel and meet them there, meet the people where they are. So that's where they are comfortable to open up to you. And that that is what is required from HR because business works closer to people than as day in and day out they work with them for deliverables. But we should constantly look for opportunities to connect with people so that we are also understanding the pulse of the employees. Diversity in HR is actually low at this point of time, if I have to say. Men in HR, uh, they really do well, but the numbers are less. Probably previously there was a notion that HR is for women, but things are changing. There are, I see now more and more men coming into HR. Uh, I don't know if it is to do with empathy. HR people are expected to be very empathetic, but now we call it that they should have emotional intelligence, right? So
That's
now the trend is changing.
absolutely right. So, yes, there are a lot of questions are still there in the chat box. However, I would also like to know, we have come across some positions like HRBP sales, HRBP finance, right? Such kind of positions we have come across. Could you please little elaborate what are these kind of positions? How are they structurally placed in the organizational structure and what are their roles when it is a function specific? Sales, finance, if you can throw some light.
Sure. So the large scale organizations these days, they structure in a way that, especially in the HRBP teams, they have a global HRBPs for each of the functions, and then they break down to regional HRBP. So the regional HRBP becomes a HRBP for a particular region, or they become a HRBP for a function in that particular region. That's where you come across HRBP sales or HRBP finance in India or APAC, Asia Pacific, or Asia, Europe, EMEA, uh, and all that. So again, it all boils down to how well we are able to understand. So there are two things in a HRBP role. So one is you have standard set of responsibilities that you will have to perform irrespective of the business that you would be assigned to. Another one is there is an interdependency for it to the business, right? The business itself. So you will be able to do your standard set of responsibilities effectively and efficiently only when you have an understanding of this business, right? It's not necessary that you should come from a finance background or you should come from a sales background to understand that business, but we should have that mindset, the growth mindset, to understand whichever business that you are uh, assigned to. You should honestly spend time in understanding from the business leaders, not just from the business leaders, from also the ground level employees. You might be working on hiring, you might be framing the job descriptions, or you might be editing the job descriptions, but you should understand day in and day out how a salesperson life goes on the street or in the office or on the calls. You should understand how a finance person's day goes in. So that gives you a very concrete understanding of business. So it gives you a confidence to talk to the business leaders. So we are a piece in middle. So there is a business on one side and you have employees on the other side. Popularly, we see the jokes that people always connect HRs to employer side. HR is not employer. HR stands in between. So we do advocacy for both the sides. To business, we represent employees, and to employees, we represent the business. Right. So we make sure that there is a right balance in any decision that has been made.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So does that mean if the particular person comes from now, for example, the first question which we got in the chat box was the career shift. So do you think so that if the particular person is from sales, finance background, shifting to HRBP will be easy? Do you think so?
Luckily, if you land up in a position where you've been assigned to that particular team, say, like you said, if there is a requirement for sales opportunity, sales team, HRBP, if you land up there, then this might be very helpful for you. But what will really help is the mindset, your growth mindset to learn and upskill yourself in any environment that you be put in. Probably you would start with a sales organization. You might not be in the sales organization throughout your career, or you might not be a HRBP for the sales department throughout your career. So it would be good. You will find it really exciting and you can understand things better when you have the background. But what I would recommend is be open to any opportunity that comes in, irrespective of your background. All that matters is what is the impact that you are able to create to the business, and how is your people that you are acting as an HRBP for contribute or generate revenue or contribute to achieve the mission of the organization.
There are so many questions are popping in my mind. And the first thing you said, how do you impact the business? Right? Would you like to mention any of the incidents, any situation where HRBP has really impacted the business in a great way? In your career, in your, any incidents, you don't have to mention any company's name, anything, but if you can highlight any incidents.
Sure. I'll take one serious incident and one little bit fun incident. So one serious incident is in terms of, so there was a time that where a new organization wanted to scale up in India. All of us were new, including the business leaders, the HR team, all of us were new, and the employees, there were about 100 employees in the team. They scaled up really fast. So that's when we are also trying to set up the policies, because previously the numbers were pretty less. And when you have 100 employees and 100 plus, and there is a growth spree, the policies that you have for 10 employees might not hold good. There will be a lot of loopholes, a lot of questions, and a lot of apprehensions for the policies that we have. So we were also trying to find our ground to hold it strong. So that's when there were concerns cropping up about the line management, employee engagement were not good. And so soon after hiring, the attrition cycle started. So one end, we are scaling up. other end, it was looking like we started losing people. So it was not really good. It's more like a sinking ship, right? So we really had to, in HRBP, had to fix that there, the HRBP of that particular department. So we figured out to find out where to start with, and when we looked at the closest person who works with many of the employees, it's the line manager, first level line manager. So we identified we will target that population and see how we can improve it. So we did a leader team assimilation. It's an exercise based on the Johari window. So there are 4 quadrants where there is a blind spot, and there is an area of which is open to all, and one area you would like to keep it to yourself. So we just wanted to check on how we can reduce the blind spot for that line manager. Probably the line employees did not open up with their feedback to the line manager directly, or the line manager was not really receptive of the feedback that he's already received. And so this assimilation exercise that we did is the manager sets a stage for the employees to open up, and there were a set of questions. In the absence of the line manager, they discuss as a team. They give feedback about what is working well and what is not working well. So how can they improve the team cohesiveness or the collaboration in the team to fix the issues? So the solutions, the problems were identified by the employees, and the solutions were also recommended by the employees, right? And then later HR goes back with all this. So HR moderates the session, and we go back and pass it to the line manager, and the line manager segregates on what are the things that I can do immediately, what are the things that I will do it in 6 months or 1 year, what are the things I cannot do. This is something that I cannot entertain. So to keep it realistic, and this exercise basically really worked well. It in fact it worked, created wonders for us. Things started falling in place. One thing that it enabled the most is open communication on the floor. So people started talking about the issues, and they come together as a team to resolve it. And they worked with the manager. They understood the manager is also equally interested and invested in solving the problems, right? So that really helped us. And after that, it became a practice where managers only come forward and ask us, like, can we do this exercise? I think it's time for us to do once more now. And it brought down the attrition, employee concerns, engagement. So things got addressed at the line manager level itself. Line managers are the first HRs. HRBP is the next point, right? So most of the question they will be comfortable asking the line manager first. If they're not comfortable with the line manager, that's where it leads to the attrition, right? So if we are able to empower, train, and get the first level line managers ready, most of the concerns are addressed at that level itself. So that approach really worked well. So this is the serious story that I have on that.
Wonderful. And that is where you also get a big message that, many times many people think that conceptual understanding is not required in today's world. Theory is not required in today's world. But let me tell you, all the audiences, all the participants here, I have always gone to various people who are working in corporates with CEOs, CHROs. And one thing which I see common behind their tables or something, that is called one, books, and second is the big models which they are using in the companies. If not, they will come up with the models and they follow. And that is where, your Maslow theory or, for example, your Johari window, believe me, it will never go out of fashion. Where the difference comes is when you're not able to apply that Johari window, maybe in the practical world, and then say, oh, both are theory, that is theory and practical is different. If you're not able to apply that Maslow theory in the compensation and benefits, and then you will see, hey, that is not working. However, higher you go, more you need to come back to the school. And, you need to read, look at the models, revisit those models, and try to implement. I think this is the one big message Pavitra has given to all of us. Do you agree with me? If yes, just put it in the chat box. Yes, put it in the chat box. Thank you, Ankit. Right. So please don't think so. You all need to know goal theory. You all need to know what is PMS model is. You all need to know what is Maslow is. Psychological concepts are very important for HR people to understand, because ultimately Our job is to bring behavioral changes in the people, behavioral changes in human beings. And if we don't understand human beings, it will be very tough. Now, again, there will be questions. So, do I need to learn psychology and do some course? Understand. If you can do course, great. If you don't do course, go on YouTube. If you don't do course, buy books. But you cannot just stop. You just cannot stop. Only course will also not give you everything. Please understand that. How do you apply that? That is very important. Pavitra, I would like to mention one person's incidents here. Whenever she used to come to HR generalist course, she was also working. And every week she used to learn something new, and next week she used to implement. She used to give a lot of ideas to her manager, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. I will handle this project. Someone else will handle this project. And she is the one who got the best HR award also at the end of the year. Understand, if you apply, then only the things will change, right? So thank you, Pavitra, for also giving that particular message. So if I ask you that, if you have to mention 3 important competencies which HR people must have, what will be those competencies?
Okay. So, traditionally, it is always people believe that where you ask for skills or competencies, it would be HR related competencies. But from my experience, what I've understood is one is business acumen, right? Be it in any role that you're doing, even if you are into a role of into sourcing, or if you are handling onboarding, any role that you are into, you should understand what our employees are doing and what our business is doing. It's very important for us to prioritize our own work. So business acumen is one thing that I would say it's very important. And good communication skills, right? At every level, the good communication skill would work as an advantage for you. Talking to business leaders or talking to your peers in HR, or making employees understand, or if you are behind the system in a HR administration role, preparing a letter, for everything, a good communication skill is very important, right? And third thing I would say, if you're looking to grow in your career, then leadership skills is something. Leadership skill, why is not necessarily you have to become a leader, but as a HR, there is an expectation that you wear your leader hat as and when there is a situation that comes. Not The organizations cannot provide you a guide. If an employee comes with this situation, you will have to do this. Not every situation is captured in the guide that you would get from the organization. You will have to wear the leadership hat to take control of the situation and act on it. So these are 3 things, at least, that has helped me so far in the career.
So when is the last time you wore that hat?
Oh, it's a day, every day.
So if you can just...
So even if there is a fire alarm that goes on, okay, so fire alarm in the building that goes on, everyone moves out towards the stairs, but HR people moves towards the room to find out where is that fire alarm going on. It's not HR's responsibility to look after from where this fire alarm went on, but it is as a HR, you cannot move out like any other employee. You need to understand what is going on, what is the situation, how do I act on it there. So we move in the opposite direction to check whether it is a false alarm or is it a real alarm, and what is at risk now.
And most of the time it's a false alarm.
Mostly, yes.
Mostly.
And we come out with interesting situations also. People trying to experiment the button, or people just randomly try to break the glass. So that there would be interesting scenarios after that. Again, HR wears a hat once more to give them warning letters.
When I was listening to you, and whenever I interview so many people, everyone mentioned about communication is very important. And most of the time, we consider communication is English. So if, salespeople need communication, finance need communication, everyone needs communication. What is specific in HR when it comes to communication?
Listening. When it comes to communication, the first thing very specifically all HRs at every level has to do is listening. You have to listen to the employee, listen to their words, their body language, their emotions, what they're trying to communicate. It's some many at times it's not the words that they're whatever they're saying is not their what they're trying to communicate. You'll be able to make out that there is something else that they're trying to communicate. So that observation or that listening skill will really help you in many critical situations, especially like you've been giving post training, right? So you would have come across many such examples where we when we listen to the employee completely, we will be able to make the observations, right? So for me, the first and foremost thing is listening, and the second thing is understanding the employee, not necessarily the language in itself.
Language. I was discussing with my family. Just recently watched one movie called 83. I must say that everyone should watch that on Netflix. And that's 83 is all about, you must be knowing, it's a Kapil Dev's biography. And that is where he was going through a lot of pressure, right? Team was not performing well. He had senior players. He became a captain for the first time. He had many challenges. And that is the time Sunil Gavaskar was also there, but he was more senior to him. And that is the time, he says, Mr. Gavaskar, now you also need to play. I want you to play hard, give your best like this. Of course, Sunil Gavaskar was the senior most person that time. And he goes to canteen and tells the manager that I will not play tomorrow's match. The manager says, why you will not play tomorrow's match? And he says, I will not because I'm not feeling well. And then the manager make him understand. Hey, do you know our Kapil Dev? He's a Punjabi. He thinks in Punjabi first, and then he speaks in English. And when he is translating that, there is a huge difference, right? So understand his feelings and thoughts and don't go on plain English. I think that is what is listening is all about, right? That is what is listening is about. Sometimes, employees write to managers like update, or manager bolte hai, boss, I am not your servant. You are talking to me like this. Please understand. They don't understand English. They cannot write kindly update on the same, please, or whatever. They just say update. They want to know. I think that is what is listening. That is what is communication. We all need to understand. And as HR, as Pavitra, you said, listening, patience is very, very important, right? So, Pavitra, I also know that you have done a coaching, you're a certified coach and all, right? So, what do you think? How coaching is helping you in your, if may I ask you this question, because nowadays skills, very different skills are required. At the beginning, you may need a degree. Over a period of time, you will need a certificate. But I have seen many HR folks are going for coaching. So how coaching is helping you in your current role?
Coaching basically helps us to enable people, asking them right questions and get them committed to their own growth plans or development plans. So in terms of the development, it really helps, right? Many at times we cannot really give them the right development plan. It is for them to figure out on what they want to do. That enabling part is what we do through coaching. We ask them the right question. We ask them the question so that they commit to the development plans that they have for themselves, and we follow it through. The coaching sessions really help us to do that, for them to solve through the problems. So if a line manager comes to me, or if an employee comes to me and asks that uh, there is a problem in Java, or say there is a problem in any other programming language for that matter, I might not understand the programming language, but the employee is coming to me So there, if I might need to wear the right hat and ask the right questions back to the employee. The employee is from that technical background and knows what to do, but it's just that the employee is seeking for some support. So there, I enable through coaching. Or if there is a line manager who comes that I'm not able to figure out a succession plan for my team, so then there is a tool in place, there is a document in place, but we enable them throughout the process by hand holding them there and making them land to a different level from the level they were in previously. So that's how coaching helps me.
Amazing, amazing. Coaching is something, I think it makes our conversations very powerful. And in our day to day life, also, I will say coaching helps a lot. So let's see now, before I go for a few more questions, let me see if there are any questions in the chat box so that, I can take certain questions. So one person has asked you one question. The first question, madam, who would you consider a good HR? What qualities you will look into? So would you like to take that question, Pavitra?
Sure. So, good HR is someone who's able to uh, practice the role with emotional intelligence, right? So, there is nothing as a good or a bad HR, but I would say an efficient HR person, a HR professional, would be able to act with emotional intelligence. Uh, so you play a role of HR. So sometimes there are different hats that you will be wearing. One hand, on any given day, you might be sitting with the team designing a reward process, reward and recognition process to appreciate people who are really performing well. Next half an hour, you might need to sit with an employee to talk about the performance issues and provide feedback that the person is not doing well. Next 1 hour, you might need to sit with a line manager or a management to fire an employee, right? So you will have a roller coaster ride every day, and personally you might feel bad or you might feel attached or you might not be ready to do few of it. Your mood keeps changing. One, you started with an appreciation program where it's a very feel good factor that you feel okay, wow, appreciating is always a good thing, right? It's a very positive thing. And then in 1 hour later you are sitting in a meeting where you are firing an employee, right? uh, so it's like emotional intelligence is very important and you prioritize it based on the business requirements. You ask the right question when you are firing the person. You can't be personally attached to anything there. You are playing an HR role and it is for the business, right? So the business of business is doing business. So that needs to be there always.
I think that one part, asking person to leave is one of the toughest part of HR, right? However, that is where the business takes up. Yeah, and we need to make certain decisions, and that is the time line managers vanishes and HR comes in that you need to have this talk, right? That is called courageous conversations and difficult conversations HR needs to have. That's wonderful, right? Pavitra, as you said at the beginning, HR is in the middle. Employees one side, employers another side, and then you're there. How do you convince your management in certain issues related to employees' concern?
Employees' concerns, right? Uh, Not every time we will be able to convince, and we might not have immediate solution for every concern that we come across. The solution comes in different forms. Mostly these days, what we see is we can comfortably convince with the help of numbers. The data driven decision making is something that is a easy pick for us if the numbers are supporting us. So whenever there is an employee concern coming, I have a number supporting it, then it is easy for me to convince the business saying
Would
that,
you
okay,
please give
so
me
here
any
are the numbers.
incidents or situation where you have shown the data to management and you handle the situation very well? Any situation?
Yeah. So if there is th- there has been in terms of micromanagement, right? So when
Mhm.
we are doing the employee connects, we come across that many people in the team are not happy with the particular supervisor. Uh,
Mhm.
and it is possibly due to the micromanagement. Right? So every organization has a microculture into it, which is at the very team
True.
level, right?
Mhm.
So, and it is the responsibility of HR to pick it up and highlight it and make sure that we align it back to the organization culture. Probably
Mhm.
the organization doesn't have that culture, but only in that particular team, because of the manager's style or supervisor's style, that microculture is prevailing. So, and we keep saying that this is not a practice that we can follow to the business leader. Probably they come back and say that no, it has been working well. There's no harm in delivery. Delivery is happening. We haven't seen any impact. So let it go as it is. They might not mind it. And when there was an attrition in the team after a certain point of time, then we could go back and say that, see, this team has been having the highest attrition across the pods. So the reason being the line manager is not trained enough to handle such things. So you really have to give this feedback to the line manager and mind the culture in the team. You have to make some tweaks to the process that is being followed here. So then the process which the employees felt it is they are being micromanaged was eliminated, and that helped us to convince the business leader understood, and the business leader started working closely with that particular manager to develop them, and then the issue was sorted. There the attrition percentage helped me. Attrition percentage, I had to drill it down to that particular team level, that particular supervisor's direct level, to say that employees were leaving in less than 1 year, and this is the number that I have. This proves that the manager is not trained enough or skilled enough to handle a team of this size. You have to retrain this manager or assign a mentor to this manager and eliminate certain practices in that particular team. So that's one
Mhm.
example.
That's wonderful. That is really good. Okay. So, when you look at HRBP role, because there are many people who would like to know more about HRBP. So I just would like to know now how HRBP closely work with the line managers. What challenges do you face while working with the line managers? How do you
Okay.
closely work with the line managers?
So HRBPs usually we connect periodically with the line managers at the leadership level. Um, either we have a monthly connect or quarterly connect, be part of their team meetings and all that. So in every connect, we understand the dynamics of the team. So what is being planned for every employee? What are the challenges in the team? What is working well and what is not working well? And what are the areas that they need HR support in? So in those connects, we get the inputs on, say, if there is a HR initiative that is a global initiative that has been implemented, which the employees are not comfortable with. I get the input there. I take it back to the global forum to say that, hey, in my region, this has not worked well. So what can we do about this initiative? Right. So one is I will be able to provide the inputs to the global stakeholders from there. And another area that we work very closely is on the talent development, right?
Yes.
We do talent succession planning, talent pipeline, and all that. So that would help us to identify the talent and the performance conversations and all that. Uh, one more area is the development of the line manager or supervisor himself or herself, right? How they can develop, and also strategy in the team, how they should be strategizing in the team. So if there is a medium performer and if there is a good performer, and how do we leverage the strengths of each of the employees in the team, and how can that be strategized, and if there are any disengagement at the early levels, we will be able to identify by working closely with the line manager and we connect with the employee to see if there is something that we can sort. Sometimes, if the concern is on the line manager himself or herself, when HR pitches in, we will be able to identify it at a very early stage to resolve it. So these are most of the areas that we work with. And culture setting is another thing. Wherever there is a good practice in the manager has been following in the team, we appreciate it and take that as an example for other teams. Wherever it is not a right practice, we kind of provide the feedback that this is not something that as an organization we would encourage the managers to do in the team. So HR plays a vital role in terms of being a guardian for the culture there. So culture is not something that one person does bring in some practice and makes it a culture, but every person carries that values in the organization.
Pavitra, continuously what I'm able to get when I'm speaking to you, that every time you get the insights from the employees and you give it to the management, and in that you are also using the data, right? So to collect that information from the employees, what kind of tools do you use to get those insights? Any tool, like for example, one is the direct interview tool, which you said that you have to go and speak to the employees, right? That is one of the tools that is directly open-ended, maybe a talk or an interview. Like that, do you use any kind of tools?
Yes, so we do use employee engagement surveys, and so that is periodically done. That is one. Another one is the data from the ticketing tools, right? So there are systems in place for employees to raise tickets on various areas. Say if I have a query related to pay, or if I have a query related to my onboarding, or anything, or any benefits related query for anything. That is another one solid data to find what kind of queries or what kind of concerns are majorly coming. If there are so many benefits related query, we go back and check on analyze, dig deeper into it to see what benefit is it about that there are so many queries, and if that benefit has to be revisited.
Okay.
So that is one tool which is really effective. Apart from that, the metrics, the HR metrics that we usually have, that is
what kind of HR
one
metrics
tool.
do you use?
Headcount, attrition, diversity metrics. Apart from that, the metrics related to the tenure. I mean, diversity has different in terms of tenure, age, gender, background, education background, location.
These all metrics are you have developed internally, or you take help from outsiders, like for employee engagement and all? Do you use Gallup and all, or how, or is it developed internally?
So it's not developed internally. We take support from the vendors. The reason being, it has to be kept anonymous so that the employees feel comfortable to give this data to us. So the tools are provided by vendors for us. So we take expert support in terms of taking the tool, and it's not just the collecting the data, ma'am, but it should also provide us with insights. If there are thousands of employees who are completing the survey, what do I get from it? I cannot practically go and check every employee's response. So the tool is required in place to analyze and identify the areas of concern and areas of happiness, right? So we go with the expert tools and vendors for that.
So there is a wonderful question Manita is asking, and that was my next question for you also. So that is, all these metrics are different for different organizations. Do you get it customized, done, or how is it?
Few metrics are common that every organization will have. Beyond that, other metrics, it depends on your organization culture. If you're an organization who gives importance to diversity, that I should have good diversity in my people in my organization, then I would track the diversity metrics as well, right? So for example, if my target is to have more women onboarded in my organization, then in particular, I will kind of track what is the headcount growth in women, what is the headcount attrition in women, what is the retention status in women. So if my target is to have more and more LGBTQ or any other, so I add the metrics based on my organization requirement, value
Fine.
system, mission, and all that.
Absolutely. So, Manita, this is the answer for your question that, you know, sometimes even we can get it customized metrics. So even though vendors are giving you metrics, there are certain parameters companies will not use because these are not applicable to them, right? But if these parameters are required for you, like for example, let me tell you that if in a particular organization, if the average age is 28 and 29, right? If I do some analysis of my workforce, I get to know how many married, how many unmarried, how many, for example, women or the parents we have, all these things, if I get to know, I need to do a lot of workforce analysis, and that is called a demographic analysis we need to do. In that, which cities, which colleges, are they from premium colleges, are they certified? A lot of things will come into the picture. Now, suppose if I get to know that I have a very young workforce and they're between around 29 to 30, right? And I want to know about paternity leaves. Now if you look at it, I may not even evaluate paternity leave because my workforce is different. And please don't assume certain things. कि क्यों नहीं हो सकते हम parents, हो सकते हो, but I will go with the law of average. I hope I'm making a lot of sense to you, because policies cannot be designed only for one or two people, but policies will be designed for the good chunk of people, so that will be beneficial and that will be best practice for that company. So when you use those metrics, I think this is very important to know your own workforce. What is your objective of having this, right? Like when we conduct, I work as a diversity and inclusion consultant with many companies now also, and they want to know how many refugees are working in your company. Are you getting my point? Now, is it applicable in my company or not? Which is very, very, very minute point it is there. Right? How many international people are working with you? How many nationalities are there? So you have to consider your workforce before even you do this. And as Pavitra has mentioned, in that, let me also add certain things. One is metrics, having surveys. HR also conduct a lot of one-on-one discussions. Use structured, unstructured interviews, right? Open-ended questions. And the qualitative data is presented in front of the management. As well as, if you look at it, there is something called focus group discussions. We will take certain demography and heterogeneous groups and we interview them and we see what is it that it's coming out, what is it that they want. That can be different age group, that can be different gender, there can be different cities, right? Like I want to know whether people coming from small cities are feeling included in this company. How are they feeling? Because maybe big city pressure is there and we need to address it. Yes or no? Are they feeling comfortable, especially new joinees and all? Then we will take them separately, we will interview them, and then we will take a lot of drive insights. I hope, Manita, you get the answer.